Chapter 1. Computing the Future. Rachel put down her pen and closed her eyes. She felt tired, very tired. She looked up at the clock. 4:30. Good. There was enough time to get to the newspaper office before 5 o'clock, and she wanted the advertisement to go into Friday's newspaper. Then, well, she didn't know what was going to happen next. It was a wonderful idea, and it was a new idea. She picked up the finished advertisement and walked through the office door into the computer room. The computer room was always busy. 14 people worked there. Rachel smiled and said hello to everyone as she walked across the room. Long pieces of blue paper were coming out of the computers. The operators were checking them carefully, then putting them into envelopes. Rachel's company used computers to do horoscopes for people. You sent the date, time and place of your birthday to the company, Computer Astrology Ltd, and the computers could do a horoscope for you. Rachel's boss, Mervyn Astra, started the company 3 years before. Mervyn Astra wasn't his real name, of course, but it sounded good. It sounded good in the newspaper and magazine advertisements. His real name was Brian Smith, but only a few people knew that. Rachel was his assistant. She didn't like Mervyn very much. He was a short, fat man with glasses and very long hair. Mervyn drove an orange Rolls-Royce everywhere. There were gold stars all over it. "It's good advertising," Mervyn always said. Anyway, when Rachel had the new idea, Mervyn said, "All right, you can try it." On Friday morning, Rachel got up early. She was waiting for the newspaper. It arrived at 8 o'clock. Rachel hurried to the table and opened it. She was looking for her advertisement. There it was, on page 7. Rachel smiled. She didn't really believe in palmistry. She thought it was nonsense, but she thought astrology was nonsense too, and the advertisement wasn't a lie. Not really. Mervyn was a wonderful computer programmer, and the computer program really did have all the information that they could find about palmistry. It could read the photographs with a special video camera, and it could compare them to thousands and thousands of pictures in the program. The program was very expensive. Mervyn worked on it for a long time. Rachel was a little worried. She wanted the idea to be successful. Mervyn could get angry very quickly, and he hated losing money. She read the advertisement again and laughed. Rachel Grant, palmistry consultant. That was funny. It was Mervyn's idea, of course. Do you want to know about the future? Palmistry is the science of telling the future from people's hands. It's a very old science. You can learn about your life and about important things that will happen to you. You can learn about your thoughts, future romances, and your future wealth. We use modern technology to give you a forecast of the future. Our computer has a special program with information from all the best fortune tellers in the world. Are you interested? Just send a photograph of your left hand with a check for £10 made out to Computer Astrology Ltd. to Rachel Grant, Palmistry Consultant, Computer Astrology Lt, P.O. Box 75, Larsenhurst, LE 64, IQ. Don't forget to write your name on the back of the photograph. The headline will tell you about your thoughts. The lifeline will tell you about your life and the important things that will happen to you. The heartline will tell you about romance and your future love life. The fortune line will tell you about your possessions and future wealth. Computer Astrology Ltd. Director Mervyn Astra. Chapter 2. It's all nonsense. Rachel didn't need to worry. The idea was successful. It was more successful than the computer horoscopes. A week later, they had thousands of photographs of hands. They put the advertisement in more newspapers and magazines. Mervyn had to buy more computers, and a month later there were 30 people working in the computer room. Mervyn bought a yellow Cadillac and put pictures of hands all over it. He used to drive the Rolls-Royce during the week and the Cadillac at weekends. He was a very happy man. Mervyn gave Rachel a lot more money, but she wasn't happy. She was embarrassed by her job, palmistry consultant. 3 months ago it was funny. Now it was embarrassing. When people said, "What do you do?" she usually said, "Oh, I work with computers." One day Rachel was at a party. She was speaking to a woman. They were talking about sport. When the woman asked her name, Rachel told her. Suddenly the woman said, "Are you the Rachel Grant? You know, the palmistry consultant." Yes. Yes, I am," said Rachel. "Why? Have you heard about me?" "Oh, yes," said the woman. "I have. I've seen the advertisements in all the newspapers. I used to be very interested in palmistry. I used to read people's hands." "Used to be," said Rachel. "Aren't you interested in it now?" "No, I'm not," said the woman. "I read a lot of books about it. It's all nonsense." "Nonsense?" Rachel smiled. "Why do you think so?" she asked. "Well," said the woman, "think about it. What does the lifeline tell you?" "It tells you how long people will live," she said. "Yes," said the woman. "So, in 1914 and 1939, before the 2 world wars, were there a lot of people with short lifelines?" "I don't know," said Rachel. "I've never thought about it." "Well," said the woman, "think about it for a minute. Did fortune tellers see a lot of people with short lifelines? Millions of people died in the wars. Maybe. I don't know. But no fortune teller wrote about it. Never. I've read all the important books. No one wrote about it." "That's interesting," said Rachel. "But maybe they didn't want to tell people about it. And it was a long time ago. What about the Vietnam War? And Cambodia? What about Ethiopia? I can give you a lot of modern examples too. Fortune tellers don't usually tell bad news," said Rachel. "People don't want to know." "Have you read much about palmistry, Miss Grant?" the woman said. "Well, yes, of course, we had to read everything before we wrote the computer program," said Rachel. "Oh yes, I'm sorry, I forgot. You are a palmistry consultant, aren't you?" The woman smiled. "Come on, Miss Grant," she said. "It's nonsense. And you know that it's nonsense, don't you? I can see that." Chapter 3. Frightened of the Future. The next day, Rachel was sitting in her office. She was thinking about the woman at the party. She looked through some books on palmistry. She had a lot of books. She couldn't find any information about lifelines before the 2 world wars. Maybe the woman was right. She stood up and went to the door. "Mark," she called. "Mark, can you come into my office for a minute?" Mark was one of the computer programmers. He worked with Mervyn on the palmistry program. He came in and sat down. Rachel told him about the woman at the party. "Mark," she said, "can we do a statistical analysis of all the palmistry photographs?" Mark looked surprised. Yes, he said. We can do that. It's easy. But why? What are you looking for? I'm not sure, said Rachel. I've got an idea. Maybe it's a silly idea, but I want to compare all the photographs. Maybe we can find something in all of them. Something about the future. You mean a lot of short lifelines? I hope not, said Rachel. But it's interesting, isn't it? I want you to compare different towns and cities. Compare them with each other and compare them with the country areas. I want statistics for different areas of the country. We've got all this information in the computer. Why don't we use it? You can do it, can't you? Does Mervyn know about this? Said Mark. Not yet, said Rachel. I probably won't tell him either. You're right, said Mark. Mervyn won't like it. He won't like it at all. He's frightened of the future. Did you know that? He's never done his own horoscope on the computer. I wanted to do it when we were writing the program. We needed to try the program, but he didn't want his horoscope, and he didn't want a photograph of his hand either. He was afraid. They both laughed. Chapter 4. Some interesting results. A few days later, Mark walked into Rachel's office. He put a box on her desk and sat down. What's in there? Said Rachel. Computer printouts, said Mark. Well, said Rachel, what have you found? Mark looked down at the desk. Nothing really, he said. In most areas, we've got photographs of hands with long lifelines, middle-sized lifelines, and short lifelines. We didn't learn very much. You see, we haven't got enough photographs. We'd need 1,000 or more from each area of the country before we could do any real statistical analysis. But we've had thousands and thousands of photographs, said Rachel. Yes, but that's from everywhere in the country, said Mark. Wait a minute, said Rachel. You said in most areas there are long lifelines, middle-sized lifelines and short lifelines. You didn't say in all areas. There is one area, but it's silly, said Mark. Go on, said Rachel. It's only one town. Chatford, he said. Chatford, said Rachel. Yes, it's a middle-sized town in the southwest. About 130,000 people live there. I know the town well. I used to live there too. You used to live there? Asked Rachel. I didn't know. Yes. I used to be a computer operator at the power station. That was 4 or 5 years ago before I worked for Mervyn. Anyway, there's a big nuclear power station just outside Chatford. I used to work there on computers. What about Chatford? Said Rachel. First, we've got nearly 2,000 photographs from Chatford. 2,000? Isn't that a lot from one town? Yes, and it's enough to do a statistical analysis. Look at the list. These are all towns about the same size as Chatford. There are 22 photographs from Norwich, 108 from Oxford, 93 from Bournemouth, 105 from Torquay, 86 from Brighton, 42 from Exeter. Why did we get so many from Chatford? Asked Rachel. Yes, I wanted to know that too. It's very easy. Mervyn's brother owns the newspaper there, the Chatford Evening Star. He gave Mervyn a lot of free advertisements, and he wrote a lot of stories about computer palmistry for the newspaper. Mervyn comes from Chatford. I met him there. He was visiting his brother. Well, what's strange about the photographs? It sounds silly, but more than 75% have got short lifelines, said Mark. Did that happen in any other town? Not really. all the photographs from Norwich had long lifelines. Then I looked at the addresses on the back of the photographs. We only had 22, but 20 were all from the same hospital for old people. They were all from people more than 80 years old. That's interesting. You mean all of these old people had long lifelines? Maybe it's not nonsense. Maybe, said Mark. Anyway, said Rachel, how short were the lifelines in Chatford? I looked at each age group. Under 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40. The lifelines were shorter than average in all of them. I mean, they weren't very, very short. Were they shorter or longer than mine? Asked Rachel. She showed Mark the palm of her left hand. Mark looked at it carefully. They were about the same, he said. Rachel felt cold suddenly. Don't worry, said Mark. Do you understand statistics? If you put one foot in water at 0 degrees Celsius and the other foot in water at 100 degrees Celsius, then statistically you're comfortable. What? Said Rachel. Well, the average temperature will be 50 degrees Celsius. That's statistics. Rachel looked at him. Have you spoken to Mervyn about the printouts? She asked. No, you told me not to tell him, said Mark. Good, I'll speak to him. Can you leave the computer printouts here, Mark? Chapter 5. None of it's true. Mervyn wasn't very happy that day. On the way to work, he had a small accident in the Rolls-Royce. He drove into the back of another car. That evening, he was going to be on a television program about fortune tellers. He was worried about it. He was thinking about the television program when Rachel knocked on his office door. Who's that? I'm busy. Go away. It's me, Rachel. I said go away. I must speak to you. Come back later. It's important, Mervyn. Rachel opened the door and went in. Yes, what do you want? Said Mervyn. Well, Mervyn, I had an idea. I'm not interested in your ideas, said Mervyn. You were interested in my idea for computer palmistry, said Rachel. Okay, sit down and tell me. But hurry. I'm very busy. Rachel told him about the woman at the party, and he laughed. Does it matter? He said. Well, yes, she said. I wanted the computer to compare the photographs from different towns. We don't pay you to play with a computer, said Mervyn angrily. Anyway, you aren't a computer programmer. You couldn't do this. Someone helped you. Who was it? Mark, said Rachel, but he did the work in his own time. He used my computer and he used my electricity, said Mervyn. Can I show you what we found? Said Rachel. She showed the printouts to Mervyn. He got angrier and angrier. Rachel, he said, this is all nonsense. Nobody can tell you about the future. You don't believe this, do you? Don't you believe it? She said quietly. Of course not. It's not true. None of it. Then you're cheating your customers. Yes, I know, said Mervyn. There's a fool born every minute. You've heard that before, haven't you? That's why I'm a rich man. Anyway, we got all the information about palmistry and astrology from the best books. The program doesn't cheat. It gives us the best information on palmistry. But all of the information is nonsense. Rachel stood up. That's it, Mervyn. You're a cheat and a thief. Mervyn smiled. Thank you, he said. Well, I'm not working for you anymore. You can find another palmistry consultant. Ask at the prison. They'll find somebody for you. She left Mervyn's room and hurried back to her office. She put on her coat and walked out. The air outside felt clean and good. She smiled. She wasn't a palmistry consultant anymore. Now, she thought, I'm going to get a real job. Chapter 6. Chatford. Rachel left computer astrology on March 19th. She soon found another job as a reporter for the Daily Echo, a newspaper in London. She was a reporter before she worked for Mervyn. But she never forgot about Mark's computer printouts, and she never forgot about Chatford. One day she was talking to her boss at the newspaper and she told him about the lifelines. He laughed. "Do you believe it, Rachel?" he said. "I don't know, but it's interesting." "Yes, it's a good story. Look, why don't you go to Chatford? Perhaps you can write a story for the newspaper." "Mervyn won't like it," she said. "Are you worried about Mervyn Astra?" "No, you go and write the story. Look round Chatford, talk to people, read their hands." "I told you I can't read hands," she said. "You know enough about palmistry. There's a good story here, write it." Rachel smiled. "Okay, I will. I'll go there next week." Rachel arrived in Chatford by train on Wednesday, the 20th of September. She got a taxi to the Royal Hotel. She walked into the hotel and stopped. A short, fat man with glasses and very long hair was standing there. He was shouting at the girl behind the desk. "Do you know who I am?" he shouted. "My brother owns the Chatford Evening Star. I want a room with a bath, and I want it now." "And you didn't write or telephone?" said the girl. "What's your name? Come on, what is it? You're going to lose your job. My brother's a very important man in this town." His face was very red. Rachel walked over to the desk. "Hello, Mervyn," she said. Mervyn looked round. "What are you doing here?" he said. "You won't get a room. The hotel's full." Rachel smiled at the girl behind the desk. "Rachel Grant," she said, "from the Daily Echo." "I phoned yesterday." "Ah, yes," said the girl. "Miss Grant. A room with bath. You're in room 437. I've got your key. Wait here. Someone will take your case to the room." "Thank you," said Rachel. Mervyn looked very angry. "Well, I'm not staying here. I'm going to another hotel. A better one." "Good," said Rachel. "Good night." Mervyn walked out of the hotel. The girl behind the desk was smiling. "Enjoy your stay, Miss Grant," she said. "Thank you," said Rachel. "I will." Chapter 7. Terrible News. On the morning of September 21st, Mark woke early. He couldn't sleep. He had dreams all night about Rachel and the computer printouts. He went downstairs to get the newspaper. It was on the floor with the letters. He picked it up and looked at the front page. Daily Echo London, 21st September. The worst day ever. Nuclear explosion in Chatford. Thousands dead. At 10:35 yesterday evening, there was an atomic explosion at the Chatford nuclear power station. Thousands of people are dead. The army has closed all roads round Chatford, and there is no news from the town. Nobody knows why the power station exploded or how many people have died. Our reporter, Rachel Grant, was in the town when the power station exploded. The army has asked people to stay in their homes in an area 50 miles round Chatford. The Prime Minister will speak on television and radio at 9 o'clock this morning. Mark put down the newspaper. He was crying. He went to a cupboard and took out the box of computer printouts. He looked at them for a moment. Then he walked over to the telephone. He had to phone the Daily Echo. He found the phone book and looked for the number. There it was, 0171 1311676. Then he stopped and thought. He picked up the box of printouts, took them into the garden and burned them. He never told anybody about the lifelines. The gold bug. I first met Mr. William Legrand many years ago. He lived on Sullivan's Island near Charleston. The island is in the Atlantic Ocean, opposite the coast of South Carolina. Sullivan's Island is small. It is 3 miles long and 3/4 of a mile wide. A creek, a narrow area of sea, lies between the island and the mainland. There was only one large building on Sullivan's Island, Fort Moultrie. A group of soldiers lived in this large wooden building on the western side of the island. The soldiers in Fort Moultrie guarded the coast of South Carolina from our enemies. William Legrand had been very rich, but he lost all his money. His fine house and property in New Orleans was sold, and he left the state of Louisiana. Soon after this, he moved to Sullivan's Island. Legrand had no family. His parents were dead and he had no brothers or sisters. He was not married and he had no children. He lived with a servant named Jupiter. Legrand and Jupiter lived in a small wooden house by the edge of the sea. They caught fish and birds for food. Charleston was not far, but they did not often go there. I lived in Charleston and sometimes I visited Legrand. I crossed the creek to the island in a small boat. William Legrand was an interesting man who had a good education, but he was also a strange man. Legrand enjoyed living in this quiet place because he did not like meeting people. Often he did not speak for several days. Sometimes he became excited and talked for many hours. When I visited Sullivan's Island, Legrand and I talked about many things. We talked about books that he had read. He talked about the animals, birds and insects near his home. He drew pictures of the creatures that he saw on the island. One day in the month of October, I went to visit Legrand. But when I got to his home, no one was there. It was a cold day, so I went into Legrand's little wooden house. Then I lit a fire and waited for him. Legrand and Jupiter returned late in the afternoon. They had been walking by the edge of the sea and they had found an unusual bug. Legrand was very excited by this insect. "It has strange patterns on its back," he said. "Can I see it?" I asked. "No, I'm sorry," replied Legrand. "You can't see it tonight. I showed it to Lieutenant Gray this afternoon. He is interested in all kinds of insects. He has taken the bug to the fort. He has a book about insects. But I don't think that he will find any information about this bug in his book." "What is unusual about the bug?" I asked. "I'll draw a picture of it," said Legrand. He took a pen from his pocket and looked for a piece of paper. But he could not find any pieces of paper in his desk. "Oh, I remember," he said. He put his hand in another pocket of his coat and found a piece of paper. Then he drew a picture of the bug very carefully. The picture showed a beetle with a round body and 6 legs. On its back there were 3 strange marks. "You draw well," I said. "That is a scarab, I'm sure. Scarabs have round bodies that are covered in hard shells. Thousands of years ago, the people of Egypt believed that scarabs had magical powers." "That bug was never alive," said Jupiter suddenly. "It's made of metal, gold. I've never held such a heavy bug. Don't listen to Jupiter, said Legrand. Maybe the bug is a scarab. And yes, it is a golden colour. But it has these very unusual marks on its back. 3 black spots. There are 2 small spots above a larger spot. The spots are like 2 eyes and a mouth. It's a pattern of a skull, the head of a dead man. A picture of a skull is sometimes called a death's head. I have discovered a bug that no one has seen before. I took the paper and looked at the drawing. It was now late. Outside it was almost dark. I went closer to the fire and held the paper near to the light of the flames. Now I could see the drawing more clearly. The paper was very old and thick. It was made of an animal's skin. I saw the 3 spots on Legrand's drawing of the bug. It certainly had a pattern of a skull, a death's head. I also saw some writing in red ink. I had not seen the writing earlier. What do these strange letters mean? I asked. I gave the paper back to Legrand. Legrand stared at the paper for several minutes, but he did not say anything. He did not speak about the bug or dye picture again. He did not speak to me at all for the rest of the evening. I thought that he wanted to be alone, so the next morning I said goodbye to him and Jupiter. Then I left Sullivan's Island and returned to Charleston. I thought no more about the picture of the bug or the red writing. About a month later, Jupiter came to Charleston. This was unusual. Jupiter did not leave Sullivan's Island often, and he never came to Charleston alone. He came to see me. Is anything wrong? I asked him. Mr. Legrand is sick, said Jupiter. Does he have a fever? No, he's sick in his mind, Jupiter replied. He walks about the island. He takes the boat across the creek to the mainland. He won't eat, and he doesn't sleep. His face is pale, like a ghost. All day and all night he writes numbers and letters in a book. He only talks about the gold bug and a death's head. The bug has made Mr. Legrand mad. Mr. Legrand has sent me here. He has written this note to you. I opened the note and read these words. Dear friend, I was not polite when you visited me. I'm sorry about that. But I must speak to you again. Please come to Sullivan's Island. I have something very important to tell you. Poor Jupiter is worried about me, but I'm not sick. Come to my home immediately and I'll tell you my news. William Legrand. I went to Sullivan's Island with Jupiter immediately. I found Legrand sitting in his wooden house. He did not look sick. He was not lying in his bed. He was sitting at a table. He was looking at something on the table in front of him. Then he wrote in a small book. Are you well? I asked. I'm very well, Legrand said quickly. His eyes were bright and shining. I'm glad that you have come. Look at this. He showed me a golden beetle that was lying on the table. That is the gold bug, said Jupiter. The golden insect was very heavy. Was it made of gold? I've studied the beetle, said Legrand, but I've also studied this paper. Legrand picked up the piece of thick, old paper that had his drawing on it. On the day of your visit, I found the bug when I was walking with Jupiter, said Legrand. We were by the sea. The bug was lying on the ground. A few feet further along there was a boat. The boat was very old and broken, and it was lying on the edge of the sea. In the bottom of the boat there was this piece of paper. I put the bug in the paper and put them both in my pocket. A few minutes later, we met the lieutenant from the fort. I gave him the bug because he wanted to study it. Then Jupiter and I went back to the house. When we talked about the bug, I wanted to make a drawing for you, Legrand went on. But I had no paper. Then I remembered the paper in my pocket. I drew my picture on one side of the paper. I did not know that there were some letters in red ink on the other side of the paper. You held the paper near to the heat of the fire. This made the letters clearer. Then you gave the paper back to me. Since that evening, I've studied that writing. I don't understand, I said. Please explain. Legrand was excited. He started to speak quickly. I believe that the gold bug has magic powers, he said. It's showing us the way to something very important. The gold bug, the skull pattern on its back, and the red letters on the paper. These are all clues, important pieces of information. That is what I think. The clues will show us where to find something that is very valuable. Come with me and Jupiter. Where are we going? I asked, but Legrand did not answer. Maybe Jupiter was right. Maybe Legrand was mad. I followed the two men to their little rowboat that was outside the house. There were some tools in the bottom of the boat, 2 shovels and a pickaxe. I looked at the tools. Are we going to dig a hole in the ground? I asked, but Legrand did not reply. He started to push the boat down into the sea. Legrand, Jupiter, and I got into the boat. Jupiter pulled on the oars and the boat started to move away from the island. Many times Legrand looked at a compass. Sometimes he asked Jupiter to row the boat further toward the north. When we had crossed the creek to the mainland, we pulled the boat up out of the water. Then we walked for about 2 hours. Again and again Legrand looked at the compass in his hand. I did not speak, and neither did Jupiter. A few times Legrand said the words, "Good, good." I became tired and I wanted to return home. What was the reason for this journey? I could not guess. As the sun was setting, we came to a tall cliff that rose up from the land. The light of the sun shone onto the side of the cliff. We could see a flat, narrow ledge on the cliff side. The ledge was like a wide mouth in the rock. Trees surrounded the tall cliff. One tree was very tall and very, very old. Legrand took us toward the tall tree and stopped. He looked up at its branches. "Can you climb that tree?" Legrand asked Jupiter. "I can climb any tree," Jupiter answered. "Very well, Jupiter. Take the gold bug and climb the tree," said Legrand to his servant. "Climb the tree and tell me what you can see." Legrand gave the golden insect to Jupiter. There was a piece of string around the bug. Jupiter started to climb the tree. I watched him as he went up and up. Soon we could not see him. "Jupiter," Legrand called out, "how many branches have you climbed?" "I'm on the 6th branch," Jupiter replied. "Climb to the 7th branch on the east side of the tree. Then look along that branch of the tree," Legrand said excitedly. "Can you see anything on the branch?" "There's something white," Jupiter shouted. "Oh, sir, it's a skull. A dead man's head is sitting on this branch. The skull is fixed to the branch. Someone took a dead man's head up here." "Good. Drop the bug into the left eye of the skull," Legrand shouted to Jupiter. "But the bug will fall down," Jupiter replied. "Yes, yes," Legrand shouted. "I want the bug to fall to the ground." Yes, sir, Jupiter said. I'm dropping the bug now. Legrand watched very carefully. The bug was heavy. I heard it fall. We both saw the gold bug shining as it lay on the ground. You can come down now, Jupiter, he said. I've got the bug. Legrand put a wooden peg in the ground where the gold insect fell. Now we must measure 50 feet from the tree, said Legrand. He took a tape measure from his pocket. He put one end of the tape measure against the tree and laid it out along the ground toward the peg. Where the tape measure measured 50 feet, Legrand stopped. Dig here, he said. Jupiter took the pickaxe and started to dig. He soon hit something in the ground. Oh, sir, he said, more bones of a dead man. I saw long bones and a skull. Legrand removed the bones from the hole. Then he picked up a shovel. Dig deeper, Jupiter, he said. I saw the blade of a knife. Then I saw 3 or 4 old coins. They looked like pieces of gold. The sun was very low in the sky now. It was almost dark. I lit a lantern and held it above my head. The light shone down into the deep hole. Soon there was a sharp sound. Legrand's shovel had hit wood and metal. My shovel has touched something, he said. It's a box. Then he removed more soil from the hole. After a few minutes I saw a wooden box with handles made of metal. It was very heavy and Legrand and Jupiter could not lift it. But Legrand pulled open the lid of the box and looked inside. I held the lantern nearer to the box and looked closer. Inside the box there was wonderful treasure. There were gold and silver coins and beautiful jewels. I was shocked. Legrand put his hands into the box and laughed. We'll take this treasure back to Sullivan's Island, he said. We'll take as many of the coins and jewels as we can carry. Then we'll come back for more. I forgot that I was tired. I was excited. We carried about 1/3 of the treasure back to the rowboat. Then we went back to Sullivan's Island and put the gold, silver and jewels in Legrand's house. We made 2 more journeys to the mainland. Each time we took away another 1/3 of the treasure. As we returned to Sullivan's Island for the 3rd time, the sun was rising. By dawn we were exhausted, but all the treasure was in Legrand's house. Then the 3 of us, Legrand, Jupiter and I, slept for several hours. When we awoke, we looked at the treasure. Legrand started counting the coins and jewels. Legrand, how did you know about this treasure? I asked. And how did you know where to look for it? The old paper gave me the clues, Legrand said. And you helped me to understand the clues. But I did nothing, I said. You're wrong, said Legrand. You held the paper close to the fire. There's secret writing on the paper. When the paper became hot, the writing became red. Legrand took the old piece of paper from his pocket and put it on the table. Look, he said, and he pointed at lines of letters, numbers, and marks that were written in red ink. There are also 2 small pictures with the message, Legrand said. At the beginning of the message there's a picture of a skull, a death's head. Pirates used skulls, death's heads to frighten people. Pirates put black flags with pictures of white skulls and bones on their ships. Legrand smiled. Then he went on. At the end of the message there's a picture of a small goat. The word for a young goat is a kid. One of the most famous pirates was Captain Kidd. The drawing of the goat is a picture word for Captain Kidd's name. Captain William Kidd sailed along this coast in the 17th century, I said. People believed that he buried some of his treasure somewhere in South Carolina. This is a message about his treasure. Yes, replied Legrand. I believe that too. After I'd seen those pictures, I looked more closely at the message. I worked for a very long time. E is the most common letter in the English language, said Legrand. E is used most frequently in the spelling of English words. The next letter that is used most frequently is A. After that, the most frequent letter is O, then I. The order of frequency is this. The number 8 appears 41 times in this message. I decided that the number 8 must be the letter E. After many hours, I discovered the code for these letters. This is the code. Legrand showed me the code that he had written. At last I understood the message, he said. This is what it said. Legrand took a paper from his desk and put it in front of me. I read these words. Use a good glass in the Bishop's Hotel, on the Devil's Seat, 41 degrees and 13 minutes northeast by north to see Big Tree. 7th branch east side, drop a line from the left eye of the Death's Head. Then measure a line on the ground, 50 feet out from the tree. Where are the Bishop's Hotel and the Devil's Seat? I asked. I've never heard of these places. More than 140 years ago, a man named Bishop lived in this area, said Legrand. Mr. Bishop had a hotel, an inn, on the top of a tall cliff. People went to the inn to drink. On the cliff, near Bishop's Inn, there was a ledge in the rock, Legrand said. The ledge was called the Devil's Seat. Some people believe that the pirate, Captain William Kidd, visited the inn. He sat on the ledge in the rock. He watched the ships sailing along the coast. I read the message again, said Legrand. I looked at the words. Use a good glass. You drink from a glass. But there is another meaning. Glass is an old word for a telescope. Sailors used telescopes to see things that were far away. Did you find Bishop's Hotel and the Devil's Seat? I asked quickly. Yes, Legrand replied. I found the tall cliff and the ledge, the Devil's Seat. Bishop's Inn disappeared a long time ago. I sat down on the ledge and I looked through a telescope. I looked towards the northeast. Then I saw a tall tree. There was something white on one of the branches. I became very excited. Soon after this, I returned to Sullivan's Island, and I wrote you a note. The bodies with the treasure, I said suddenly. The skull and the bones in the ground. Do you think that they were the bodies of pirates? Yes, Legrand said. I think that those bodies must be 2 pirates from Kidd's ship. Kidd killed them when he buried his treasure near the tree. Now we must decide how to spend his money. We are all rich. The oblong box. My home is in New York, but several years ago I stayed in Charleston, South Carolina for a few months. At the end of my visit, I returned to New York by ship. In those days, we traveled by sailing ships. Sailing ships took about a week to sail from Charleston to New York. When the winds and the tides were good, the journey took 6 days. If there was little wind, and we had to wait for a good tide, the journey took 8 days. There were no regular days and times for ships to sail. Passengers went to a shipping office. They asked a clerk where ships were going. The clerk told the passengers the names of the ships and their destinations. Then he wrote the passengers' names beside the names of the ships. The captains of the ships looked at this list. Then they sent messages to the passengers when their ships were ready. A ship was going to sail from Charleston in the middle of June. Its destination was going to be New York. I booked a cabin on the ship. Then I waited in a hotel. I wanted to find out the names of the other travelers. The list of the passengers' names was kept in the shipping office. So I went to the shipping office and I looked at the list. There was one name on the list that I knew: Cornelius Wyatt. Cornelius and I were students together at university. A few months earlier, I had heard news about Cornelius Wyatt. A friend in New York wrote me a letter. Cornelius had married a beautiful and charming young woman. I wanted to meet Mrs. Wyatt. I had never seen her. Why were Cornelius and his wife in Charleston? Cornelius was an artist. He painted pictures. He also bought and sold paintings. Old paintings were worth a lot of money in New York. Was that the answer to my question? Maybe Cornelius had found a valuable painting in Charleston. There were many old families in South Carolina. The families had brought many paintings from Europe. Was Cornelius taking an old painting to New York? I was going to find the answer to both these questions soon. We were traveling together on the same ship. A captain sent a message. His ship was going to sail to New York the next day, June 15th. I went to the harbour and boarded his ship. I looked at the list of passengers and their cabins. Cornelius Wyatt had booked 3 cabins. He had the 2 cabins opposite mine and the cabin beside mine. He was not travelling alone. He had 3 ladies with him, his wife and his 2 sisters. The 2 sisters were in a cabin opposite my own cabin. I expected Cornelius and his wife to take the second cabin opposite mine, but who was going to be in the 3rd cabin? I was surprised when I met Mr. and Mrs. Wyatt at last. Cornelius looked ill and he was not pleased to see me. "My friend, we have much to talk about," I said. "And is this your charming and beautiful wife?" The lady with Cornelius was wearing a veil. The thin material covered her face, and I could not see her clearly. But she said, "Good morning," to me politely. She spoke slowly. She had the accent of South Carolina. She did not speak with a New York accent. Cornelius did not speak to me. He took his wife into the cabin opposite mine and shut the door. Cornelius was very rude, I thought. But he is an artist. Artists can be very selfish. We will talk later. But who is staying in the 3rd cabin? Maybe a servant will be in the cabin beside me. 2 men brought a box onto the ship. It was an oblong box about 6 feet long. The men took the box to Cornelius Wyatt's 3rd cabin, the cabin beside mine. They put the box down on the floor while they opened the door. The words Wyatt and New York were written on the top of the box. I watched the 2 men carry the oblong box into the cabin. Then I heard the men talking. The walls of the cabin were thin, and I could hear their conversation. "It smells bad, doesn't it?" said one man. "Yes," said the other man. "What's in it, do you think?" The 2 men left the cabin and closed the door. I wanted to look at the strange box more carefully, but I could not do that. First, I must speak to Cornelius. There were paintings in the box, that is what I believed. But I wanted to see them. What had Cornelius found in Charleston? Maybe the paintings were secret and valuable. I saw Cornelius later in the evening. All the passengers were in the dining room eating dinner. I tried to speak to Cornelius, but he did not want to talk. He was rude to me. Also, he was not hungry. He ate nothing. Was he ill? Well, I said, we're old friends, but you're behaving badly. Cornelius said nothing. I was angry with him now. I wanted to be rude too. Are you worried about the things in your box? I asked. I have guessed what is inside it, but I won't tell anyone. I said the words. Then I wished that I had not said them. Suddenly Cornelius Wyatt's face became very pale. His eyes were large and bright. Was he ill? Or was he mad? Cornelius Wyatt suddenly fell to the floor and was still. He had fainted. The captain and 2 sailors helped Cornelius to his cabin. I went to my own cabin and tried to sleep, but I could not rest. I heard someone open the door of the cabin beside me. Had Cornelius gone into the cabin? Had he gone to look at his pictures? I heard the sound of metal on wood. Was Cornelius opening the box? Maybe I slept a little then. Maybe I dreamt. I thought that I heard the sound of someone crying. Cornelius stayed in that cabin. He did not want to come out. Food was taken to him. He did not eat it. Those paintings must be extremely valuable, I said to myself. Cornelius cannot leave them for a minute. Then I thought of another reason for my old friend's strange behavior. Mrs. Wyatt did not stay in her cabin. She came out and talked to the other passengers. I saw her in the dining room. I was very surprised. I had been told that Mrs. Wyatt was beautiful and charming, but she was neither beautiful nor charming. And she was not young. My friend had said that Mrs. Wyatt was from New York, but she spoke with a South Carolina accent. Was this the reason for my friend's strange behavior? Had Cornelius made a mistake? Had he married the wrong woman? Was he sad and upset about this? The door of the cabin was locked and Cornelius did not come out. What was he going to do when we reached New York? Then something happened and I forgot Cornelius Wyatt's secrets. A few days after we left Charleston, there was a storm. The wind blew and the sea became rough. The waves grew taller and taller. It was a very bad storm. It blew the ship south, back toward Charleston. The wind was very strong. It blew all night. The ship moved from side to side. It almost turned over. The mast broke. The captain could not steer the ship, and it went toward the shore. The ship hit some of the sharp black rocks on the coastline, and it started to sink. Soon seawater came along the corridors and into the cabins. "Leave the ship!" the captain shouted to everyone. "Quickly, go to the small boats. Do not stop to take anything with you." I ran out of my cabin and I saw Mrs. Wyatt. I saw Cornelius Wyatt's 2 sisters. The sailors helped us to get into a rowboat. There were 15 of us in the boat. The captain was with us. It was daylight, but black clouds were in the sky. We could see land 2 miles away. The wind was blowing toward the land. We looked up at the ship. It was now low in the water. The ship was sinking. Soon it was going to be under the sea. Suddenly we saw Cornelius Wyatt. We had forgotten him. Cornelius was pulling the oblong box toward the side of the ship. He was pulling the box toward our rowboat. His eyes were wild. He was terribly frightened. "Mr. Wyatt," shouted the captain, "get into this boat now. The ship is sinking." I cannot leave my box, Cornelius replied. I must get into the boat with my box. No, shouted the captain. We can only take you. You cannot bring your box. Quick, get into the boat. The ship is sinking. I cannot leave my box, Cornelius shouted again. Is your box more important than your life? I shouted. Cornelius looked at me. I saw madness in his eyes. He hated me. He hated my question. Yes, 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 Cornelius shouted. He lifted the box onto the side of the ship. As he pushed it over the side, he held onto it. The box and Cornelius fell into the sea. Both the man and the box went straight down into the water. Cornelius and the oblong box did not come up again. Get the boat away from the side of the ship, shouted the captain. We pulled on the oars and the rowboat moved away from the sinking ship. In a few minutes the ship had sunk beneath the sea. The wind blew our rowboat to the shore. At last, we were safe. A month later, I met the captain again. We talked about the storm and our escape from the sinking ship. We talked about Cornelius and the oblong box. It was a mistake to bring that box onto the ship, the captain said. The box brought bad luck to the ship. I did not want to take the box. What was in the box? I asked. The body of Mr. Wyatt's dead wife, the captain replied. Mr. Wyatt's wife died suddenly on June 14th. She died in Charleston on the day before we sailed. Mr. Wyatt had to return to New York, and he wanted to take his dead wife's body with him. None of the other captains wanted to carry a dead body in their ships. Some people believe that it is bad luck to keep a dead person on a ship. But Mr. Wyatt asked me again and again. He became very upset. At last I agreed. He lied to the shipping clerk and the other passengers. He said that there were valuable paintings in the box. So who was the Mrs. Wyatt that I met? I asked him. She was his servant, said the captain. Wyatt loved his beautiful wife very much. Only I knew the truth.